Picture this: your favorite A-list music mogul, the one who built empires and shaped careers, suddenly being dragged into the kind of scandal you'd swear was ripped straight from a messy reality show reunion episode. We're talking about Jay-Z, the man who gave us some of the biggest hits of the 2000s, now caught up in whispers, accusations, and receipts that no one saw coming. And here's the kicker: it's not about music, money, or even Beyonce. Nope, according to Rihanna's former manager, Jay wasn't just hiding chart-topping hits in the vault. He was hiding a relationship. And not just any relationship, a secret, years-long connection with a man from deep inside the entertainment world. The kind of DL situation that could rewrite everything we thought we knew about early 2000s hip-hop culture. Fans are floored. Industry insiders are scrambling. And the streets? The streets are talking louder than ever. This is the story that could shatter reputations, reopen old wounds, and force some of the biggest names in music to pick a side. So, buckle up, because the receipts are messy, the emotions are raw, and the tea? Well, the tea is boiling hot. The whispers didn't start in a tabloid or some messy gossip blog. No, they started in a private green room years ago at an after-party for one of Rihanna's early tours. According to her ex-manager, who is now speaking out after more than a decade of silence, she walked in on a conversation she was never supposed to hear. Jay-Z, laughing softly, talking in a low voice to a man she didn't recognize at first. They were standing too close, leaning in as if the rest of the world had faded away. And there was something in the way Jay touched the man's wrist, gentle, intimate, like it was muscle memory. She swears she froze. It wasn't the kind of body language you mistake, she told an unnamed source last month. You know when two people have history. At the time, she didn't say a word. She was young, still finding her place in the industry, and Jay was untouchable, a kingmaker. But over the years, that moment kept replaying in her head. And now, she's ready to tell the world who that man was. Fans are losing their minds online, demanding answers, connecting old interviews, and suspicious moments from the early 2000s. One clip from a backstage documentary has resurfaced where Jay-Z is seen smiling in the corner while a mystery man adjusts his jacket before he goes on stage. People claim it's the same man the ex-manager is talking about. The conspiracy threads are spiraling, but here's where it gets even messier. This isn't just about Jay and some private fling. According to the ex-manager, that relationship had ripple effects in the industry. She claims certain beefs, certain sudden contract terminations, and even certain suppressed collaborations were influenced by this hidden connection. When you're hiding something that big, she said, you protect it at all costs. Sometimes that means cutting people off before they get too close to the truth. One of the most shocking allegations is that this man, let's call him D, wasn't just someone Jay met casually. He was allegedly a rising producer at the time, working behind the scenes on projects for multiple ROC Nation artists. D was talented, charismatic, and according to insiders, he had a way of getting Jay's undivided attention in rooms full of powerful people. He was the only one Jay would actually stop mid-conversation for, another anonymous source claims. That was unheard of. And if you're wondering how Rihanna's ex-manager knows all this, she insists she was often in the same rooms. There were nights after shows where everyone went out, she said, and I'd see Jay and D slip away. They'd reappear an hour later, acting like they'd just been talking business, but you could see the shift in their energy. I wasn't stupid. I kept my mouth shut back then because careers were on the line, mine included. The internet detectives have started piecing together old paparazzi shots from the 2000s, images of Jay and D leaving the same hotel hours apart, attending the same private events, or being photographed in matching outfits that now, in hindsight, seem less like coincidence and more like a quiet statement only they understood. One fan tweeted, "This was hiding in plain sight and we just didn't see it." But not everyone is ready to believe it. Some fans think it's just another case of the industry manufacturing scandal to sell stories. Others are defending Jay fiercely, calling the claims baseless and disrespectful. Still, even his most loyal supporters admit the timeline has some odd gaps, periods where he seemed to vanish from the spotlight without explanation, only to reappear with fresh energy in a new project. And then there's the part about Beyonce. The ex-manager carefully avoids suggesting she knew from the beginning, but she hints that there might have been tense moments in the early days of their relationship. There was one party, she recalls, where B walked in and D was. Already there, I'll never forget the look on her face. It wasn't jealousy, it was something colder, like recognition. They didn't speak that night. Several people close to the situation claim that D eventually stepped away from the public eye altogether, disappearing from music around 2009. But why? That's where the theories get darker. Some say Jay made a deal to quietly take care of him financially in exchange for silence. Others whisper that D left voluntarily, tired of being a secret, tired of the games, and unwilling to watch Jay build a life in the public eye with someone else. The most chilling detail the ex-manager shares is from one late-night recording session. Jay was in the booth, but he wasn't rapping about a woman, she said. The pronouns were different. He caught himself halfway through, started over, but I'll never forget the original lines. It was raw, emotional, nothing like the polished verses he usually delivered. He looked straight at D after he finished. Whether or not that's true, it's the kind of claim that fuels endless speculation. Fans are digging into old lyrics, searching for hidden meanings, double entendres, and coded shoutouts. Some swear certain love songs from that era make more sense now. Others think this is all just a stretch, a wild conspiracy born out of nostalgia and stan culture. But the ex-manager isn't backing down. She says she has proof photos, messages, even a voicemail that could confirm everything. She hasn't released them yet, but she's hinting that she might if people keep calling her a liar. I didn't come forward for clout, she insists. I came forward because history needs to be told the way it really happened. The tension in the industry is palpable. Other artists from the ROC Nation family have been asked about the situation in interviews. And while most dodge the question, a few have been caught off guard, giving awkward laughs or suddenly changing the subject. One former collaborator who spoke off the record admitted, "We all knew something was up. We just didn't know how deep it went." Now with the story going viral, people are demanding to know where D is today. Some say he's living overseas. Others claim he's still in New York under a new name, producing music under an alias. And then there's the wildest theory of all that he's still in contact with Jay, quietly influencing projects from behind the curtain. As for Jay himself, he's been silent. No statements, no cryptic posts, no subtle denials. Just silence. And in the world of celebrity scandal, silence can speak louder than any press release. But silence also leaves room for more questions. And more questions lead to more digging. And now, a former ROC Nation tour assistant has stepped forward with a story that might just blow the lid off everything. She claims that one night, during the European leg of a tour, she accidentally walked into Jay's private dressing room and saw something she will never unsee. That, she says, is when she realized this wasn't just rumors. This was real. The tour assistant's voice shakes as she recalls the moment. "I was just dropping off wardrobe changes," she says, and the security guy stepped away for a second. "I thought Jay was alone, so I didn't even knock. When I opened the door, he was there." With D, they weren't talking. They weren't even pretending to be working. It was personal. She refuses to give more graphic details, but the way she closes her eyes when she says it tells its own story. She swears she heard Jay's voice low and warm, nothing like his usual public tone. It was the kind of voice you use with someone you've loved for a long time. The assistant says D quickly stepped back, adjusting his shirt while Jay turned his head and just stared at her. He didn't yell, he didn't panic. He just gave me this look like, "You didn't see anything," and then he smiled, this small, almost sad smile. I left without saying a word, but I couldn't stop thinking about it for the rest of the tour. She kept quiet for years, terrified of losing her job, but now that the ex-manager's claims are out, she feels like the weight is finally off her chest. "People can say what they want," she adds, "but I know what I saw. You don't fake that kind of connection." By this point, the story has exploded online. Hashtags about J&D trend for days, memes flood timelines, and old photos are being dissected like evidence in a crime scene. Fans post side-by-side shots of Jay in the early 2000s and D standing nearby, half hidden but always present. Someone even digs up a blurry picture from an after-party where Jay's hand is resting on the small of D's back. "It's subtle, but it's there," the tweet reads, racking up thousands of likes. But the internet isn't the only place buzzing. According to sources, industry events have gotten awkward. People are whispering in corners, checking who's around before they speak. One high-profile PR. Producer tells a friend, "You have to understand, if this comes out fully, it doesn't just affect Jay. It changes how people see an entire era of hip-hop." Meanwhile, D's name is suddenly popping up again in obscure credits for recent songs. Nothing big, nothing front page, but enough for fans to notice. The theory? He never really left, he just went underground. And if he's still working, maybe the connection to Jay never really ended either. Then comes the first twist. An anonymous email is sent to a popular gossip channel, claiming to be from someone very close to D. The email insists that D didn't just disappear, he was forced out. According to the message, Jay's inner circle staged a quiet intervention after Beyonce and Jay became serious, telling D he had to walk away for the good of the brand. The email claims he was offered a lump sum payout plus a promise that his work in music would still be supported behind the scenes. It wasn't about love anymore, the email reads. It was about image, and the image couldn't include him. The gossip channel posts the email in full, and the internet goes viral. People debate whether it's real, dissect the wording, and try to match the phrasing to anyone known in Jay's circle. But then, just 2 days later, a new player enters the story, an ex-assistant of D's, who claims she witnessed late-night phone calls between him and Jay well after the supposed split. He'd get this call and his whole mood would change, she recalls. He'd smile, laugh softly, sometimes just sit there listening without saying much. I never heard the other voice, but he always called him Jay. This ignites another theory that the relationship never truly ended, that it continued quietly alongside Jay's public marriage, hidden under layers of secrecy and mutual understanding. The thought alone sends fans spiraling, with some even reinterpreting public appearances from the last decade through this new lens. But just when the internet thinks it's pieced everything together, the ex-manager drops another bomb in a radio interview. "Y'all are missing the real twist," she says, her voice low but deliberate. It wasn't just about J and D, there was someone else who knew and they used it. The host pushes her for details, but she refuses to name names. Instead, she hints at a blackmail situation, someone leveraging the secret for power in the industry. This hint sends shockwaves. Now, people are digging into old power shifts in the ROC Nation empire, trying to match them with moments the secret could have been used as leverage. One fan thread goes viral after lining up dates of major business deals with moments D seemed to vanish from the public eye. The pattern is unsettling, and then a voice note surfaces. It's scratchy, clearly recorded without consent, but fans swear they recognize Jay's laugh in the background. A man's voice, possibly D, can be heard saying, "They think they know, but they don't know everything." Jay's voice responds, "And they never will." The clip is only 12 seconds long, but it's enough to send the internet into meltdown. Through all this, Jay remains silent. No denials, no clarifications, just the same calculated quiet. But silence has its own gravity. It pulls speculation closer, making every theory seem a little more plausible. His team refuses comment, fueling even more curiosity. Behind the scenes, though, some are starting to worry. An insider claims that several major advertisers tied to Jay's business ventures have quietly reached out for reassurances. Not because they care about his personal life, but because they fear the optics of a scandal this explosive, especially if more proof surfaces. It's not about who he loves, the insider says, it's about control of the narrative. And that's when another shocking development drops. Someone claims to have screenshots of old text messages between J and D from the mid-2000s. The messages are said to be playful, occasionally flirty, but also deeply personal, referencing inside jokes and shared memories. The leaker refuses to release them publicly, but hints that they could appear in a tell-all if the price is right. Meanwhile, Beyonce's name starts trending not because she's said anything, but because she hasn't. Her social media posts are business as usual, flawless photo shoots and tour updates. But fans are reading into every caption, every song choice in her setlist, as if she's communicating in code. One clip from a recent performance shows her singing a ballad with what fans call a new edge in her voice. She knows, one tweet declares, and she's speaking through the music. By now, the lines between fact and speculation are completely blurred. What's real, what's rumor, and what's a carefully placed distraction? No one can say for sure. But everyone agrees on one thing: the story isn't going away. And when the ex-manager announces she's sitting down for a televised interview to set the record straight, the anticipation hits fever pitch. Day before the interview airs, a final piece of the puzzle emerges. A retired photographer who once covered the hip-hop scene extensively posts an old contact sheet on social media. Among the image's mostly party shots and backstage candids is one frame of J and D sitting side by side, heads leaning close together, smiling at something just out of frame. It's not explicit, not incriminating, but there's an intimacy in the way their shoulders touch that feels undeniable. Fans go wild, reposting the photo with captions like, "We weren't ready and the proof was always there." Others argue it's just friendship, but the world is too quick to label closeness as romance. But the timing just hours before the big interview feels too perfect to be coincidence, and when the interview finally begins, the ex-manager wastes no time. She looks straight into the camera and says, "The man everyone's been calling. D, that's not even his real initial. You've all been looking in the wrong place." The studio falls silent after her words. The interviewer blinks, clearly thrown off. "Wait, so you're saying the man's name doesn't even start with D?" The ex-manager smiles faintly, leaning back in her chair. "That's exactly what I'm saying. The industry's been chasing a shadow because that's how he wanted it. We all called him D back then. It was a nickname, an alias. His real name, his real identity was something he guarded more than anything." This revelation sends shockwaves through the audience watching live, and even more so online. Comments flood in, people frantically revising their theories, realizing that all those blurry photos, all those producer credits might belong to someone else entirely. "She just reset the whole investigation," one fan tweets. 10 years of clues, and now we're starting from scratch." The interviewer presses on. "So if his name isn't D, why protect him?" Her answer is deliberate, almost heavy. "Because this wasn't just a relationship, it was a lifeline for both of them. He gave Jay something no one else could. Not fame, not money. Something deeper." She pauses, as if weighing whether to continue. "He knew the man before the mogul existed." The host tries to coax more details, but she dodges specifics, saying she's saving them for her book. Still, she drops another breadcrumb. "He was already in the business before Jay blew up. Smaller role, less spotlight. But when Jay rose, so did he, just quietly in the background." The implication is clear. Whoever this mystery man is, he wasn't some random figure. He was embedded in the very fabric of that early hip-hop scene. As the interview airs, internet splits into factions. Some fans are now convinced this man could be a known figure we've all seen before, hiding in plain sight under a different professional name. Others think it's a deep cover, someone who deliberately left the country to keep the secret safe. Amateur sleuths dig into early ROCFL rosters, cross-referencing old tour staff lists, looking for men who abruptly left without explanation. And then, hours after the interview, an anonymous account posts a grainy clip from what appears to be a 2003 birthday party. In the footage, Jay is seated at a private table, surrounded by friends, but his eyes keep drifting to a man standing in the corner. The man is laughing, holding a drink, and when Jay catches his gaze, the expression on his face changes, completely soft, almost vulnerable. It lasts only a second before he turns back to his guests, but viewers are mesmerized. "That look says everything," one comment reads. As the clip spreads, another former insider emerges, a backup singer who toured with several ROC Nation artists in the mid-2000s. She claims the mystery man was often on tour but never listed officially on crew sheets. "He was just there," she recalls. "No one introduced him, no one explained why he had access to every restricted area. But Jay treated him differently than anyone else. You could see the trust." By now, the rumor mill is working overtime. One theory suggests the man was a ghostwriter on certain tracks, explaining his deep integration into Jay's creative process. Another claims he had powerful connections outside music, which could explain how he allegedly had leverage in a so-called blackmail situation hinted at earlier. And then, without warning, the story takes another sharp turn. A leaked document surfaces, an old non-disclosure agreement dated 2006, signed by someone whose name is redacted but whose signature looks eerily similar to an autograph. Spotted in fan meet and greet photos from years ago, the NDA explicitly forbids discussing any personal or romantic matters pertaining to Sean Carter, Jay's legal name, as well as any events witnessed in private settings. The authenticity of the document is debated, but the detail is chilling, especially the fact that it specifies romantic matters. The NDA leak sends social media into a FR. NZ, why have an NDA like that if there's nothing to hide? Fans ask. Others push back, saying high-profile figures use such agreements all the time. Still, the coincidence feels too close to ignore. In the midst of this chaos, a former music journalist steps forward. She says she once interviewed Jay in a dimly lit lounge back in 2005, and halfway through, the mystery man walked in. Jay lit up, she says, like a switch had been flipped. He introduced him with that nickname everyone's using now. The guy didn't stay long, but the energy in the room changed. It was almost like Jay forgot he was in an interview. As the week goes on, the story refuses to die down. Instead, it escalates. Paparazzi start camping outside Jay's usual haunts, hoping to catch sight of anyone who matches the descriptions floating around. Nothing turns up until one photographer claims he spotted Jay's security escorting a man into a private building in Brooklyn late at night. The photos are blurry, the man's face turned away, but the internet still loses it. That's him, people declare, despite the lack of clear proof. At the same time, fans begin re-examining Beyonce's discography, especially songs from her early solo years, for potential references to the tension all this implies. Some interpret certain lyrics as subtle acknowledgments of unspoken truths, others as pure coincidence. But once the idea takes root, it's hard to unhear. And then, as if to throw gasoline on the fire, the ex-manager returns for a podcast appearance, where she reveals that the man's real initial is M. She refuses to give the full name, but says once people know, it's going to be like finding the missing piece of a puzzle you've been staring at for years. Within hours, online detectives are posting massive lists of every male name starting with M who had ties to ROC-Afella or ROC Nation in the early 2000s. The speculation is relentless. One theory even points to a now-retired R&B singer who vanished from the charts just as Jay's career hit another level, citing creative differences at the time. Amid this speculation, another former tour assistant, this one from a European run, shares a cryptic post on social media, a photo of an old backstage pass with the letter M circled in red ink. The caption simply reads, "Y'all weren't ready back then, and you're still not ready now." Through it all, Jay remains publicly silent. But privately, according to an insider, he's not happy about the renewed attention. The insider claims his team has reached out to at least 2 gossip outlets, offering exclusive interviews or access in exchange for toning down coverage of the story. So far, neither outlet has taken the deal. And then, just as the online sleuths are zeroing in on a short list of possible identities for M, an unexpected voice enters the conversation, an ex-collaborator of Jay's who left the industry years ago under mysterious circumstances. In a rare live stream, he says, "I'm not here to confirm or deny anything, but I will say this: if you think you know everything about the early days, you're missing the biggest chapter." And some of us still remember. His cryptic tone only fuels the frenzy. Fans flood his comments, begging for more, but he logs off after just a few minutes, leaving more questions than answers. By now, the mystery is bigger than the original revelation. It's not just about whether Jay had a secret relationship, it's about who this man really is, how deep their connection went, and why so many people seem willing to protect him after all these years. And just when it seems like the speculation might finally cool down, a new piece of evidence drops a candid, never-before-seen photo from 2004, showing Jay and a man believed to be M standing on a balcony in Paris at sunrise. Jay is looking out over the city, but M is looking at Jay, with an expression that speaks volumes. The balcony photo spreads like wildfire. Within hours, it's on every major gossip blog, shared millions of times on social media, and dissected frame by fans desperate for any hint of truth. The way M looks at Jay is what gets everyone talking, eyes locked, a half-smile that's neither staged nor guarded. It's the look of someone who knows the person beside them better than the rest of the world ever will. Some say the picture alone is proof enough. Others argue it's just a candid between friends. But then a French paparazzo comes forward, claiming he took the shot himself and that it wasn't the only one from that morning. According to him, there were several frames, some where Jay and M were leaning on the railing together, some where they were sitting close, talking quietly. With M's hand resting on Jay's shoulder, he says he sold the full set to a private buyer back in 2005 for an unusually high price and was told never to release them publicly. I didn't ask questions, he admits, but it was clear those photos were important to someone with a lot of money and power. This revelation adds a whole new layer to the story. Who bought the photos? And why keep them buried for nearly 2 decades? Fans theorize that someone close to Jay, maybe even Jay himself, paid to make sure they never saw daylight. Meanwhile, M's name begins to circulate more aggressively online. People start comparing old interviews, voice clips, and song credits, trying to confirm his identity. One particularly viral thread points out that Miss appeared from a major tour lineup just days before it kicked off in 2007, replaced by a last-minute substitute with no explanation given. The theory? And had been seen too often with Jay and it was becoming a problem, but then comes the most shocking twist yet. A leaked audio file surfaces on an anonymous forum. It's muffled, clearly recorded during a private conversation, but the voices are unmistakable to those who know them. Jay and M in the clip. M says, "We've been doing this for years, Jay. When's it gonna be more than stolen hours?" Jay sighs and replies, "You know it can't be. Not now, not like this." The clip is short, just over 20 seconds, but it's explosive. If real, it's the closest thing to a confession the public has ever heard. The internet implodes, with some claiming it's fabricated using AI, while others swear the emotional weight in their voices is too raw to be fake. As the debate rages, the ex-manager posts a cryptic message on her social media. "Told y'all it wasn't just a rumor." She doesn't elaborate, but she doesn't need to. The timing says it all. Behind the scenes, there are whispers that Jay's team is scrambling. According to one insider, calls have been made to legal teams, damage control specialists, and even certain journalists known for running exclusive clarification pieces. The goal is clear: shift the narrative before it spins completely out of control. But M, for the first time in years, seems to step forward. A new account pops up on a popular platform under a username. Fans quickly connect to him. He posts a single image, a black and white photo of 2 intertwined hands, with the caption, "Some stories aren't meant to be erased." Within minutes, the post goes viral. Some see it as a bold declaration, others as a subtle threat. Is M finally ready to tell his side? Or is he just reminding everyone that he holds pieces of the puzzle no one else has? The post sparks another wave of speculation. People revisit the old narrative of him being forced out, questioning whether he left willingly or if it was all part of a calculated move to protect Jay's public image. Some argue that M's reappearance now, of all times, suggests he's no longer interested in protecting anyone. And then, in a move no one sees coming, a well-known talk show host announces that M will be appearing for an in-depth, tell-all interview. The promo clip is tantalizingly vague, just M sitting in a chair, looking directly into the camera, saying, "It's time." The announcement is met with shock, excitement, and disbelief. Fans are glued to their screens when the day finally arrives. The interview begins slowly, the host carefully navigating the early years, asking about music, touring, and industry pressures. M answers politely with measured words. But then the conversation shifts. "Did you and Jay-Z have a relationship? Beyond friendship?" the host asks. There's a pause, the kind that feels like it lasts forever. M takes a breath, glances down, and says, "Yes." The studio audience gasps. Online, live comment sections explode. M doesn't offer lurid details, but he speaks about connection, loyalty, and the pain of living half a life in the shadows. "We cared for each other," he says quietly, "but there was never space for it to be real in public. Not in that world, not in that time." He describes nights in hotel rooms where they'd talk until sunrise, road trips between shows where they'd sing along to old soul records, and moments of unspoken understanding in crowded rooms. "It was love," he says simply. The host asks why he's speaking now. M leans back, a small smile on his lips. "Because the truth doesn't stop being the truth just because it's inconvenient." The fallout is immediate. Fans are divided, some praise M's courage, others accuse him of chasing relevance. Industry figures stay mostly silent. Though a few post vague messages about living authentically and breaking old chains, Jay still doesn't comment. Not a post, not a statement, nothing. And maybe that's the most telling response. Of all. The next morning, the ex-manager gives one final interview of her own, saying, "This was never about outing anyone. It was about telling the real story of what shaped the music and the man." She insists that knowing the truth doesn't change the art, but it does change the way people see the person behind it. And just like that, the narrative begins to shift again. Now the conversation is less about scandal and more about the untold pressures of fame, the choices artists make to survive, and